Welcome to the Ringer NFL show. I'm Sheil Kapadia. Today we're looking at the Week 9 slate. It is the usual Friday exercise. What headlines are we going to be seeing next week after these games are played? Our guest today is JP Acosta from CBS Sports. You can listen to him on the Pushing the Pile podcast. And I'm just telling you right now, I mean, this man can write some headlines. So we talked Bills Chiefs, marquee matchup of the weekend. Colts Steelers, a fun one as well. Lions Vikings, and Seahawks Commanders. JP knows ball. I mean, I learned something from him every time he's on. Love podcasting with him. He made some very interesting points specifically with that Bills Chiefs game. So very fun conversation with JP. Let's take a break. We come right back and talk headlines. This is the Ringer NFL show presented by FanDuel. And if you're betting on the NFL, FanDuel's the place to do it. They've got everything. Same game parlays, quick bets for when you want to jump in live, and your way so you can set your own lines. The app's fast, it's easy to use, and best of all, when you win, you get paid out instantly. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to get started. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states and 18 plus in DC, Kentucky, and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. All right, we are back here with JP Acosta from CBS Sports. We're talking headlines in Week 9. JP, I always give the guest, the first headline. So go ahead, start us off. What do you got?
My first headline is the Buffalo Bills become the one thing they sought to destroy and lost to the Chiefs.
Ooh, tell me more. You're a good headline writer. You got me intrigued. I'm clicking on that link right away.
Something that FAU taught me. I had to learn how to write headlines there. But when Stephon Diggs was traded to the Texans, I wrote a story back when I was at SB Nation about the Bills becoming the Chiefs offensively. It was a Chiefsification of their offense. You're going from this real super spread and shred, being real explosive, to being more meticulous, growing around their quarterback as the quarterback has grown in the short game, and just the more mastery and control of the offense. But now I think the Bills are where the Chiefs were last year when it came to how constricted the offense was, when it came to a lot of teams last year could just play man-to-man against Kansas City and they couldn't move the ball because they had so much limitations on what they could do despite the quarterback still being amazing. And in the Bills' case, the quarterback is still amazing. The offensive line is still very good, but something about the passing game is just off right now. For the last few weeks, even in the Panthers game where it didn't really matter because the Panthers gave up 300 yards on the ground, but Josh Allen has just been a little skittish in the pocket. I think it's not alarming. It's more just, it feels like he is trying so hard to make a play where nobody else is open. And I think that Joe Brady has tried so much to do with like scheming and all the alignment stuff that they like to do to get guys open. But at the end of the day, you got to go get a guy who can get you a bucket. So I feel like in this game against the Chiefs, I feel like the Chiefs are much better equipped defensively to attack this Bills team. So this one's going to feel like the Bills were becoming the one thing in Kansas City that they tried to break for the last few years.
That's interesting because as you were saying that, we would have this conversation all the time last year with the Chiefs. And I'm like, well, look at the numbers. They're still a pretty efficient offense, but it would always come back to, are they explosive enough? And to your point, third and 6. 3rd and 7, man, like who is the guy who you're going to? And we're like, yeah, the Chiefs don't have anyone last year. And I think you're right about that. I mean, at first, really, I was at the point where I'm like, they're fine. And then that Falcons game that they had on that Monday night was when I was kind of like, man, this feels harder than it usually does for the Bills. And to your point, it's not that like they can't do it. I mean, they're 3rd in EPA per drive. They're 2nd in success rate. Like, you look at the season long stuff and they're going to be fine, but it's not about like having a good offense for the regulars. It's about like these high leverage situations against great teams because they're chasing something that most teams, it's a higher bar than most teams are trying to clear here. So that's interesting. So you think this Chiefs defense is good enough to make it feel like that for the Bills, that like we might be watching this game going, wow, this is really an issue for Buffalo? Or are you like, well, let's see about that?
So I'm still a little wary of the Chiefs defense, but since week 5, they're top 5 in EPA per play allowed on the ground. They're top 3 in success rate allowed on the ground. They have played so much better against the run. A lot of that is due to Nick Bolton playing a lot better. I think with the way that the Bills want to run their offense, I said on the show, on our show earlier today, that this was going to be a game about the others. This is going to be a game about Leo Chenal against Jackson Hawes and Reggie Gilliam. It was going to be, that's where the game's going to be won because of how big the Bills want to play their defense. And I think that plays into what the Chiefs want to be and how the Chiefs want to get their best players on the field. Because as long as Leo Chenal is on the field, Trent McDuffie is still on the outside. You don't have to play Chamari Conor and nickel. You can the Chiefs have the bodies to isolate Trent McDuffie on Khalil Shakir and let Keon Coleman and Jalen Watson go at it for 60 minutes because as much as Keon Coleman is a jump ball receiver, he hasn't done that this year. Josh Palmer is sort of their outside go get it guy. And I don't know if he's going to be 100%. And even if he is, I don't know if that's going to be a difference maker against Spags where this team has so many more answers now. So I don't think I'm saying like the Chiefs defense is fully back, but yeah, I think they are well equipped to attack this version of the Bills that sort of neutered itself.
In my fake trades earlier this week, I was trying to get Chris Olave to the Bills, JP. So we're on the same page. I mean, now those guys are hard to find, but maybe a game like this has them saying, all right, maybe the draft capital that we can give up for a guy like that is worth it. The other side of the ball here is interesting as well. You know, this to me is like, what do you got, Sean McDermott type of spot? Because there was a reporting in Buffalo where I think he was asked after last week, are you calling the defense? And he was like, I'm calling it with Bobby Babich, our defensive coordinator, which usually when a head coach says that, I'm like, all right, the head coach is basically calling the defense.
Like the assistant to the regional manager.
That's right. Well, no, I'm not. I don't want to tell you I've completely stripped him of his main responsibility because that would be bad leadership. But you know what? If we're struggling, I'm going to do what I need to do. So he's done that before with like veteran defensive coordinators like Leslie Frazier, where McDermott's just like, I need to fix this. And in the playoff, I can't shake that, AFC Championship game last year where the Bills defense was just atrocious. I mean, they couldn't do anything in that game. That was a 98th percentile game for the Chiefs offense based on success rate. And the Bills have had up and downs defensively this year. The Chiefs offense looks back. And I'm trying to figure out, like, can the Bills slow down Patrick Mahomes and this Rashee Rice, infused offense for the Chiefs? Where are you with that side of the ball?
The only way that I really think the Bills win this game defensively is Joey Bosa having a vintage like Joey Bosa performance. If this team is not going to have Ed Oliver, who is sort of the straw that stirs the drink, they need somebody to get pressure with the way that they play their defense, with the way that they play and wanting guys to just wanting to keep a lid on everything defensively. I think they need to get something from their pass rush. They need Joey Bosa to play well. They need Greg Rousseau. If Deion Walker can provide some impactful pass rush snaps, because the biggest thing that I'm worried about, and I've been worried about for this Bills defense, is their secondary is slow. And it's not like they are a terrible secondary. I think Christian Benford's very good. We still have yet to see like Maxwell Hairston in extensive snaps. That could be like, we're throwing him out of the frying pan and into the volcano against Kansas City. But I think this defense needs speed. And this is going to be the game where it kind of shows up that like, man, this team is slow.
Yeah, they're bringing back, Jordan Poyer and Jordan Phillips, like trying to play the hits. It's like, man, that was a while ago before those were key cogs. So let's see what it looks like for the Bills defense in this game. It'll be a fun one. That's the highlight of Week 9, certainly. Bills versus Chiefs. All right, JP, my first one here. Vikings hit crossroads after blowout loss at Detroit. So we got Vikings-Lions. JJ McCarthy's back. Carson Wentz is out for the season. Vikings are 3-4 here. They've got the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL. They're 8.5-point underdogs in this game. And I just don't know if they can match up with a team that looks like a well-oiled machine in Detroit. On one side of the ball, the Vikings defense, I don't think has played well as maybe I expected them to play this year. Even the last couple of weeks has not been good for them. And then offensively, I don't know how to expect anything from JJ McCarthy and this Vikings offense going up against the Lions defense that has outperformed expectations, that Kelvin Shepard arguably has done like the best coaching job, in my opinion, of any coordinator in the NFL, what he's done with the injuries on that side of the ball. So this is one of those games that I feel like can really swing the narrative one way or the other. If the Vikings win this game, it's like, oh, okay. It's kind of like they're in the mix. JJ McCarthy is going to get more experience. If they get blown out here, I just don't know that there's anything, any way they're coming back from it. So am I being too harsh? Where are you with Vikings Lions this weekend?
I think this is going to be a game for the Vikings where all of your offseason plans and the reason why you thought JJ McCarthy could be a thing for this Vikings team, it sort of rears its ugly head on Sunday. Because looking back in the offseason, we said the Vikings could be very good again because they had the offensive line that was going to hopefully remain healthy and be a very good unit once again. And a defensive line and a defense that has played really well to sort of support a young quarterback who has to grow into this role as the starting quarterback of this offense. Neither of those things have happened. And I'm really more concerned about the defense because in the offseason, they traded Harrison Phillips to the Jets in order to get Jalen Redmond more snaps. You want to get Javon Hargrave on the field. But the problem is those two guys are the exact same guy against the run. So they've built this defense out of all three techniques who win getting upfield and have nobody who does the dirty work. And you can tell when they face teams that get big and they want to run the ball at them, they give up a lot of leeway on the ground, something that we're not normally accustomed to with this Vikings team, especially under Brian Flores. That's also not a great sign going up against Detroit, who has found it in their run game and have also shown that if they don't, I think of it as very similar as like when Houston's defense doesn't respect you, they'll tee off on you in pass rush. Yeah. When Detroit's offense doesn't respect you up front, they're going to run the ball 40 times a game and you just won't be able to do anything about it. So on that side of the ball, I'm a little concerned that this aging roster hasn't played up to its caliber. And then this offensive line is just never healthy. They never can get a full game out of Christian Darrisaw. They haven't gotten a full game out of Brian O'Neill lately. Ryan Kelly's been in and out of the lineup. They just have too many holes, and against a Detroit defensive line that has Lee McNeil back, who was awesome against the Bucs. I just worry that there's too many holes on both sides of the line to really make this Detroit secondary look at least a little human.
Yeah, I love the point about their run defense because I looked at it in the offseason. I was like, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, like their pass rush is going to be even better. And I didn't, take into account, is there a chance their run game takes a step back? I mean, their run defense and their 26th in success rate against the run. To your point, they just similar type bodies in there. They don't have that run stuffing guy in the middle. So that's been an issue. Jared Goff has had success against these Brian Flores defenses the past couple of years. Now he had Ben Johnson, but Lions 4-0 against Flores the last couple of years. Goff completing 79% of his passes, 8.4 yards per attempt. And to your point, it doesn't need to be a high volume passing game. I mean, Gibbs has been sensational. He can break one at any time. And so I think they're in a tough spot here. Let me ask you this question before we move to the next game. What would it take what would need to happen for JJ McCarthy to not be the Vikings starter week 1 of 2026? Like, do you think, is this like a 10-week period where they're going to make a decision after that? Or do you feel like, no, they're going to be committed to him going forward?
I think given the injury, they're going to give him another year. But the only way that I see him not being the starter going into 2026 is if he suffers another injury, because he's really only played like 2 games, 2 healthy.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's been in our lives for so long and he's barely played. So he's one of the most intriguing players the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's one of the most intriguing players the rest of the season, like you said, because this is a team that has the offensive talent to be a juggernaut, but the quarterback is really going to be the thing that sets him apart. So if JJ McCarthy can prove that he can at least keep the wheel straight, if you can keep the wheel straight in this offense, maybe the defensive floor will be raised by coaching and you can get close to the playoffs. But I think they're going to let him go into next year as a starter and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but it's a big 10-week stretch for that whole organization, depending on how he plays here. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to some other games. This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting a linebacker on the football field, but getting a line cook. Sure, they both can handle the pressure when it starts heating up, but only one is stopping a touchdown. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team, so don't settle for just any insurance. When it comes to getting the help you need, State Farm is the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. All right, we are back on the Ringer NFL show. All right, JP, what do you got? What's your next headline?
The Colts prove that the Steelers' arms are too short to box with the class of the AFC.
I'm telling you, listen, you're great at podcaster, writer, on TV. I don't want to give your bosses at CBS any ideas, but if they need someone to like fill in and write some of those headlines, I mean, you're killing me, JP. These are sensational. All right, go ahead. Explain it to me.
I have just had too many questions about the Steelers just as a whole this season. And it starts with their defense. They have been one of the worst defenses against the pass this season. And the large part of it is because they are so static. They play so much cover one and so much cover three. But they are also one of the worst communicating defenses I've seen this year. Like you can see, like during the Packers game, there were coverage busts on the 2-point conversion. There were 10 players on the field. That shouldn't be happening for a team with as many experienced veterans as they have on the field and experienced guys on the sideline with Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin. I just feel like there's going to be a game for them this season where everything sort of just breaks defensively. Like they've been able to get by because they are the Steelers. They can get a splash play here and there. But I feel like this game against the Colts is going to be a really tough one for them because if you play a lot of cover one, a lot of cover three against this Colts team, they will motion you and they will play action you to death. And I think that's something that they have shown that they can do against a lot of the class of the AFC. And then once you get a lead on this team, can the Steelers offense win from behind? Can they win in obvious drop back situations when it's not the Bengals? I have a lot of questions about just the sustainability and the long-term viability of this Steelers team. And if they lose on Sunday paired with a potential Ravens win on Thursday, that margin is going to get a whole lot closer. That margin is going to get a lot closer in the AFC North. Lamar Jackson's going to be back. They have 2 games against the Ravens to finish the season. This just feels like a game where the separation between the Colts and the Steelers really shows up.
So this is one, JP, where I agree with all your analysis. First of all, we've talked about the Steelers earlier this week. It's the worst defense Tomlin has ever coached statistically, and the eye test matches that. And you got people saying stuff like, with effort, questioning effort. And then as you're pointing out, communication, just getting lined up. There's a lot of issues with the Steelers defense. On paper, I look at Colts offense versus Steelers defense. They should put up 30 plus. And then we have this history with Mike Tomlin. And we have this history with guys like Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph and washed Ben Roethlisberger and very stupid, weird Steelers teams in spots like this finding a way. Now, a lot of those times, we talked about this earlier this week, they were able to win those games with like defense and special teams, like sack, fumble. And they might not have the horses this year to do that. So I'm with you. This is like sort of a once and for all. Like if the Colts should go up and down the field on them. And if they do that, it's like this Steelers defense doesn't have it. Like there's no, it's going to get fixed in the second half. It's like, this is part of what we saw in the second half of last season. I mean, they fell apart the end of last season and it feels like that's in play here too. Is it that type of Steelers team or is Tomlin saying, not so fast, my friends. We still got some, I don't know what those tricks are up their sleeve. It could just be their pass rush plays really well. It could be, does Daniel Jones turn into a pumpkin this game, JP, where we're all like, man, Daniel Jones, I guess he's just good now. This is all, but after this game, are we like, all right, come on, we should have seen that coming. That's the only way I can get to a point where I see the Steelers actually pulling off the upset. They're underdogs at home against the Colts.
Yeah, I think the only way the Steelers pull this game off is if we get like classic Mike Tomlin Steelers, like 10-9, just
Tomlin ball.
the grimiest game ever. Like, that's exactly how the Steelers have to win, because they can't score to keep up with the Colts, especially with the way this Colts offense is playing. They have so many guys in so many places that really can affect the Steelers defense, especially at the second level. Their second level defense, they just added Kyle Duggar, who is sort of more of a linebacker now than a safety. He's going to be playing in the second level now because Deshaun Elliott's hurt. But you have Tyler Warren running over the middle of the field. You have to worry about the run game and arguably the best offensive line in football this season, and a quarterback who is playing extremely confidently. I just worry that this Steelers team can't win from behind. And if they can't win from behind, if they can't get the splash plays on defense, that was their margin for error for the entire late year Tomlin era, since 2020. They have been able to widen their margin for error because of the defense and getting splash plays. If those things aren't happening, I just don't know if this team can really hold itself above water compared to the class of the AFC.
Yeah, they would have, I think you need maybe a couple turnovers, a special teams play, like a goal line stand, or you're really good in the red zone. And then offensively, they might be able to shrink the game, make it like an 8-possession game. I do think they can run the football, maybe string together some long drives offensively. But yeah, it's weird to say. I mean, imagine if August, I'm like, hey, JP, we're going to have this conversation before week 9 where we're like, a lot has to go right for the Steelers to even be in this game against the Colts. We'd be like, what in the world happened in the NFL season in 2025? So that's a fun one. Colts Steelers. Let's see what happens in that game. All right, last one here. I'm up, and I'll be honest, this is one that I don't know that I'm saying fully, with my heart, with my chest, however you want to phrase it, but I'm giving it a little spin, and you tell me if I'm nuts. Commanders keep their season alive with upset over Seahawks. So this is it's a little bit my heart here, because I'm a big Jaden Daniels guy, and I think he's so fun when he's healthy, and I don't know that we've seen him healthy. And I'm kind of looking at it going, are we sure we're fully giving up on this Commanders team? They're 3-5, minus 11 point differential, 0-2 in one-score games. They lost that weird game against the Bears on the late fumble. They haven't really had a full team. Not that they're going to have a full team here, but they've gotten blown out the last 2 weeks against the Cowboys and Chiefs. And I feel like everyone's already finished with them, where I'm like, are we sure their offense doesn't have a little... this isn't a case for their defense. Can their offense have a little bit of magic here where they maybe just keep it close? Jaden Daniels gives us a fourth quarter. Everyone's excited about Jaden Daniels again, and they keep their season alive. So that's the case. Again, I'm telling you, I'm on the fence. Where are you with this Commanders team in this game on Sunday?
I wish I had as much faith in this Commanders team overall as you do. I have a lot of faith in Jaden Daniels, but it just feels like this game is going to be one where, like we talked about with the Steelers, kind of realizing where they are in relation to the rest of the conference. This feels like a game where Washington finds out where they are in relation to the rest of the conference, because we talked about in the offseason, like they traded for Laramie Tunsil. They went out and got Deebo Samuel. But some of the impact players that were supposed to make impacts defensively haven't done that. You were so reliant on aging veterans like Marshawn Lattimore, like Bobby Wagner, like Javon Kinlaw. And Kinlaw's had a pretty fine year, but Bobby Wagner's not been great. Marshawn Lattimore has been one of the worst corners in football this year, and that has really sunk their defense from one that needed to be volatile and just create chaos plays in order to get the ball back to the offense. They haven't been able to get those chaos plays anymore. They haven't been able to get Frankie Louvu on some of the blitzes, on some of the free runs that he's been able to get in previous years. They haven't really been able to do that, and it's just made this defense so much worse. And that's where I'm sort of worried against this Seahawks team that can really attack teams in base personnel. You just worry about Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu in coverage. You worry about everybody in coverage for the Commanders. And despite how much I want to believe in Jaden Daniels, I just think there's too many guys out. There's too many people out to really say, like, this is going to be one where they get the swagger back.
You're probably right. I said I was on the fence. I'm trying to will it to happen here, but no Terry McLaurin in this game. Laramie Tunsil, we'll see. The Seahawks do run the football a lot and they're not a great running team. Like they have a certain way they want to play. And I'm glad you mentioned the volatility with the Commanders defense, because it really might come down to the Seahawks really hit those explosive plays. It feels like every week in the passing game, even though they don't pass a lot, and the Commanders are going to give up some of those plays. So I like your comparison. It's sort of like, can they create those turnovers like we're saying with the Steelers? Can they steal a possession on special teams? It might require something like that. I think it's a more intriguing game than it looks like on paper, because it's like they got their backs against the wall. Like, this is kind of it for the Commanders. If they lose this game, I think it's going to be really hard for them to come back and make something of this season. So do they have that one last sort of surge here where they show a little fight and can pull off an upset and say, all right, exhale. Now let's see if we can go on a little run and win a wild card spot in the NFC? Or is it just like, no, you're outclassed? Like the Seahawks have been a very good team this season, and this just isn't your season. So fun one Sunday night, Seahawks Commanders. Always fun talking to JP Acosta. You can see him on CBS Sports. You can hear his podcast, Pushing the Pile. You can read him at CBS Sports, and maybe you can read some of his headlines after this performance somewhere on the internet. JP, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'll be right back with the hurry up. Today's Ringer 107 is brought to you by FanDuel. I'm still in last place, but guess what? Back-to-back winning week. So I told the Ringer 107 group chat this week, I said, don't let me get hot. So let's try another winning week, just stack the winning weeks and see where we're at the end. So here are my 5 picks. Pick number 1, we're going Lions, -8.5 at home against the Vikings. We talked about this game with JP. Listen, if JJ McCarthy plays well, or if Brian Flores delivers some kind of masterpiece, or it's one of those fluky turnover special teams games, so be it. But I expect the Lions to move the ball up and down the field. I like their defense. They're at home. I'm going with the Lions. Second pick here, Panthers +13.5 at Green Bay. Am I nervous about this one? Of course, but that is a big number, +13.5. I think the Panthers are more mediocre than terrible. I think they can run the ball. They're coming off that bad loss to the Bills. Packers getting a lot of hype this week after their win over the Steelers. So Green Bay sometimes, as we've talked about on this pod, has a habit of playing with its food. Maybe we get a little Bryce Young backdoor cover. All right, third pick, Chargers -9.5 at Tennessee. Jim Harbaugh versus Mike McCoy is as big of a coaching mismatch as you will see in the NFL. All due respect, but Mike McCoy has been a disaster replacing Brian Callahan. Titans might be without Jeffrey Simmons and Calvin Ridley. Chargers are getting healthier. They got Joe Alt back, their offensive tackle. So I think Chargers win big in that game. Fourth pick, give me the Patriots -5.5 at home against the Falcons. I don't know that the market has caught up to how well the Patriots are playing right now, because they've had sort of the easy schedule. I trust what I'm seeing. I trust their offense against most defenses. I trust their offense against Atlanta. I just think they can score. Drake May's been phenomenal. And I don't trust the Falcons. So I'm taking the Patriots there. And finally, all right, JP almost talked me out of this, but guess what? I'm still taking the Commanders +3. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they get blown out, but this is just always take Jaden Daniels in a big spot play. And so I'm going to feel okay about that. I think their backs are against the wall. They're at home, prime time, need this game to save their season. Could go horribly wrong, but I'm sticking with it. Commanders +3 against Seattle. All right, today's Ringer 107 was brought to you by FanDuel. Odds subject to change. Thank you to everyone for listening. Another fun week here. Appreciate all the guests who joined me. Thank you to Christopher Sutton for producing, Kiera Givens on social, and additional production supervision by Conor Nevins and Arjuna Ramgopowell. I'll be back Monday morning breaking down the biggest Week 9 storylines. Have a great weekend, everyone. Talk to you next time on the Ringer NFL Show. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.